What's going on, guys? Running it back with another replay. Okay, that was gibberish to me, Taurox, but thank you. Anyways, we're running it back with another replay here. Very, very late night cast here, honestly. But this was just a really good game from Turin's most recent tournament. Semi-finals match between me and Orange Pest here. We're playing around with Taurox the Brass Bull. Not a lord that you see too often from the Beastmen, but one that I think you can definitely make good use out of. There's definitely a time and place for combat characters, and against a very fighty faction like the Greenskins are, perfect opportunity to use this guy. He did get a cost decrease in the most recent patch. Not anything too crazy. It was only 100 gold, but, you know, every little bit helps. So, very happy to have him here, and we'll see how he does. Fat Vanguard onto the middle objective. I'd never played this map, but the second I saw this, I was just like, okay, I mean, and I was a little worried that there might just be like a horde of Night Goblin fanatics vanguarded here, and that would have probably ended my career real fast, because they're so devastating with their little casts. But my opponent here going for a very traditional front line of greenskin forces. So I'm feeling pretty good about having the middle objective immediately. I've got Razorgore Herd and Chariots taking the #1 objective, and we'll get rolling in here while I talk about the Greenskin army. A fair number of Orc boys in the front line, just sauced and ready to go. Some Savage Orcs out on the flank with Air boys, Rugloods, all in the back line here. Very stalwart units with very good damage output on their bows. Way better than my Ungor Raiders. And they're a little bit more outnumbered here. I only got 2 bows. My opponent bringing in 3. Rugloods with 160 range. My guys are just not going to have any hope of making contact, honestly. It's going to be way too difficult for me to get in there and fire in. But they're going to pick some targets here. They're getting some Orc boys shot down a little bit. Squig Herd summoned. Really nice opportunity here for Orange Pest. As these Ungor Raiders are very occupied by the Squig Herds, he's going to be able to push in with the Orc boys, but I am going to micro back my Ungor Spear Herd. Honestly, a very critical choice by me. I don't want to leave mediocre infantry in the front line to just get folded up, especially if they have the potential to uptrade really well, which the Ungor Spear Herd actually do. These guys are my contingency against Squig Herds, which are very popular. They're also pretty good against Orc Boar Boys. And the Zangors are going to be folding through them and getting into these frontline fights here. Orc Boys getting engaged here, Enfeebling Foe popped, while this Zangor and the other ones all advancing forward and trying to find some really good engagements. The Savage Orcs are running for their lives. They are very reliant on a physical resist as their damage mitigation, and the Zangors, obviously with magic damage and really good combat stats, will just absolutely beat down these Savage Orcs if given the opportunity. Not quite able to escape. Out here on the flank, we do have our Melkoth's caster, my first summon in, getting absolutely pounded by Gorbad here. Really good reaction from Orange Pest. Melkoth's does a ton of damage to this Goblin Wolf Rider, though, and Taurox and the caster here are able to rout these guys pretty quickly, but just another really good play from Orange Pest, man. Immediately pops Fate of Buna, the second inexpensive cavalry unit comes out. Poor Groghoof's just getting absolutely nailed, but they will be okay. The reason for that is they've got not just Rowdy, they've got Drunken Bravado, which gives them a heal in combat, basically regeneration without the weakness to fire, which is just awesome. And I will be pulling them out of bow range and retreating them so that they can get some of that regen going so that I can use them a little later in the match. And Taurox finds the Giant River Troll Hag, the little Dickens that cast Fate of Buna on my very expensive cab. So Taurox getting a little bit of comeuppance here, smacking her around. And he's got fire damage, and she is very weak to fire because of her regeneration ability. Normally benefiting her a lot in a matchup like this, where she can persevere through bow fire, survive Centigores, and all kinds of other nastiness. But here she's just getting absolutely pounded by Taurox. But my poor caster's not having any better of a time, and we're actually trading casters right now. My poor Bray Shaman gets caught here by Gorbad and gets absolutely smacked into oblivion, while Taurox does the same to the River Troll Hag. So pretty even trade, one I'm fairly happy with, and really a lot of stuff is going right for me across the battlefield. I've gotten a lot of really solid engagements in the front line. We're not value trading amazingly right now, but a lot of that is because of the Buna on Grog Hooves. And they haven't dropped any models, most importantly. They did lose a lot of HP, down to about half, but they're regenning, they're hanging in. They're going to get some axes online against this Orc Boarboy Biggin that's running over these spear herds right now. My Zangors. Again, just grinding down the front line of the Orcs here, man. They're losing a little bit of momentum in the front line, and once you get your opponent's infantry off the field is where mobility can really open up a game for you. That's kind of what I'm trying to bank on right now, but it's razor close right now. I've got to play very carefully here. Razor Gore Chariots, they do get stuck up in these Orc boy spears, which is a little unfortunate. A little bit limp of a charge on them. But I am going to be trying to push them through in a moment. And there are some Ungor spear herds here to keep the Orc boys locked in place, given the right opportunity and time. Mither gets popped here. Goblin Wolf Riders suffering Taurox's wrath here. And he's got some pretty solid value already. Hanging in and getting some good work done while Razor Gore herds finding the Rugloods. And these guys normally wouldn't get... Normally, an uphill charge isn't very good for mobility units, but thanks to Strider on the Razor Gore herd, they don't have any issues. They just get a fat charge right onto the rear of this bow unit. And the Savage Orc Arrow Boys wandering a little too close to the sun. And some Ungor Spear herd. Gonna be locking those guys down and getting a really good engage here for myself. Now, it could be going a lot better. Not having the magic is really putting me behind. It's still a really close game, but we are cleaning up a lot of dangerous units. The Orc Boarboy Biggins back here get crushed by some Centigores and Gore Herd here, you know, just keeping them pushed back a little bit. Ungor Spear Herd back here doing some stuff, while the Zangor front line just still going to town, man. A really close game. Taurox finds the caster yet again, but misses his attack, but he'll be hounding her down as best he can. And getting the pick on the Rugloods and the Savage Orc Arrow Boys, just absolutely massive here. Losing an Ungor Raider in the process would be pretty bad, but these guys are really isolated in the back line here. They don't have a lot of support. There's a Night Goblin Big Boss back here, and some Orc Boys, but not much else, and the Gore Herd actually having a pretty good time. Despite getting run over, they're locking a lot of these models down in the Razor Gore Herd, following up this charge. Already having value traded quite nicely for themselves. Getting a really clean isolation on another piece of mobility for the Orcs, and another Razor Gore herd just comes in and finishes the job. Absolutely crushing loss back here for the Greenskins. Still a really even game. Grog Hooves over here, they're doing a pretty good job of chasing down the mobility core and killing some Spider Riders with the other melee Centigore unit that I have here. We'll be trying to pull these guys out, get them into a position of safety where maybe they can value trade a little bit. And the Razor Gore Chariots, they have kind of been forgotten about. They didn't do too well this game. That does tend to happen sometimes into some of these very wide factions. But they're blocking up a Squig Herd back here, doing a decent amount of damage, and if they get them low enough, they will Feral Rampage, which would be really nice for me. Greenskins having a pretty good time with their heroes and their lord, but a lot of the other pieces in their army are just having an awful go of it, man. The Centigores are just all over the place. Forest Goblin Spider Riders, they can trade pretty well into Centigores, but not in a head-up charge. You know, the Spider Riders really need to get counter charge off, while the Centigores are fixed by another unit to really value trade well. And out on the flank over here, there was a Squig Herd coming over, but the Centigores that I sent over did a very good job of just absolutely pounding those guys into the dirt, and then find the remaining Rugloods and sweep them off the field very quickly. Very, very fast approaching a critical point for the Greenskins. They were double capped for most of this game. The number 3 objective is under threat here. Some very tattered Zangors. Fairly reasonable value. Smacking up the Wolf Riders, and that is going to be a concede from Orange Pest here. But really well played. Absolutely chaotic game, dude. Taurox was doing a lot of work. Not able to, like, grind out, you know, absolute loads of value or anything, but really beating down on that caster early on and finding an isolation here at the end. is honestly did a lot for me, because getting a route early meant that she was pushed back pretty far, not really able to get in and provide any Buna support in the early stages of the game. And once she came back in, she really didn't have a lot of great targets. My Centaurs were all fairly spread out. I didn't really even have that many of them. And I believe she ended up using one of the Razorgore herds. And Razorgore herd are a fairly okay target for it, but they're only 600 gold, so it's a little inefficient at the end of the day. But, yeah, I mean, it was just very wild, dude. I mean, luckily, I was able to keep enough infantry and tattered units close to me on the field so that the Beastman's just amazing mobility, just so fast, able to swarm up onto the objectives again and just keep a very precarious toehold on them. Taurox here with 1100. He was well on his way to paying for himself. He would have definitely done so had I had a little bit more time to play around with him. He was just, I mean, beating the crap out of the Hag. He would have been able to beat Gorbat as well in the one-on-one. Taurox is just a nasty dude, man. He's got Brass Body, which gives him melee defense and a ton of ward save, so he's fairly tanky as well, with a really good HP pull, 7,500 or 7,300, which, you know, may not sound like a ton compared to some of the other, like, big single entities in the game, but you gotta consider that he's like he's a fairly standard combat lord, and you don't really find a lot of combat lords with that much HP on mortal factions. Most of them are around like the 5,000 to 6,000 mark, and he just gets over the top with that little bit of extra HP. And the fact that he has Blood Greed, Flaming Attacks, some really solid abilities as well. Like I mentioned, he's got the Brass Body, which gives him the ward save and all, but also Slaughterer's Call, which gives leadership and melee attack and a radius around him. Can really help you value trade exceptionally well in the front line, which makes a big difference for the Beastmen. Because they do have some fairly solid infantry. They're all pretty lightly armored, though, and if they fold up early, that's where you get into a really ugly situation, as the Beastie Boys here. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for me. A little scattered tonight, but I hope y'all enjoyed this replay. It was fairly hectic and fast-paced, but, you know, that's kind of the name of the game with these very quick swarming factions. We're both on one, so it was just a absolute madhouse for, you know, the 8 or 9 minutes that we were in there scrapping together. But I'll catch y'all next time, and I'll see you around. GG's. Peace, folks. Take care.